What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's going on with the overall market thus far and some very important levels to be watching for. But let me first mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks, and the offer ends in just about 4 days from now. Anyways, for SPY, I want to break down some very important stuff that's going on. For the economic calendar that just came out, the industrial numbers are looking just so thus far. They're showing some growth, if anything, in terms of production. But as time goes on, now the main thing to focus on would be just like the Fed speakers. We have Barkin, who just started his speech. Then we also have Collins, who's about to start theirs. Kugler, Loken, and the list goes on. So we just have a bunch of Fed speakers for the rest of the day. And then the 20-year bond auction comes out at 1 p.m., which is kind of minor, shouldn't cause anything too crazy, but it's mainly just Fed speakers for now. Now, as of right now, when it comes to the way the market is moving, I am seeing some signs of exhaustion on SPY, but it doesn't guarantee anything yet unless we lose some key support. We haven't lost key support yet. I'm just showing signs that I'm seeing some signs that SPY is slowing down a bit. So what's going on with this? So we pushed all the way up to about this 548 zone, right? Yesterday, this is where we kind of rejected a bit, came back down to 547. Then today, we saw SPY shuffle during the pre-market, and it actually made another attempt to push up, but it came just short of the high from yesterday. It was off by about 20 cents. So it's kind of establishing a lower high right here. We're coming back down. So this could be the first sign of potential rejection, or another sign that SPY is showing some weakness. It's really struggling to break out even more. But I want to see it actually lose these lows right here. So see, these wicks are around the mid 546s. If we lose this area, then I think SPY will dip all the way down to our 20 EMA around 546 flat. And we need to break that to really start coming back down to like 544 or lower levels. And as long as we haven't really done that, we're still technically just range bound on SPY between 548 and 547. So I would say right now, SPY, technically speaking, is just range bound, but there is potential for a rejection if we lose key support. And if we end up closing below key support, that's going to give us even more conviction. All right, so I'll be watching this very carefully and just keep this in the back of your mind that when you are trading, you always want to be looking for breaks. You want to be looking for breaks. You want to be looking to see how well we hold support and some more signs of weakness. So we have a couple of signals that show that the market is potentially rejecting here, but there's not enough confirmation of us truly kind of like losing these lows to really start sinking. So for now, yes, there's some weakness developing, but we're not officially breaking down or anything like that quite yet. We're still kind of range bound. All right. For Nvidia, now one thing that I said about Nvidia was that I could see this pushing to the low 130s, but I said as we get to those levels, watch resistance because it's getting tougher. Look at the last 3-4 days on Nvidia, right? We hit 133, just under that, kind of rejected a bit. Then we had 134, rejected. Today we're hitting 134, and we're kind of struggling again. So, Nvidia, this could try to push higher. It's still possible, but I'm just trying to say that resistance is getting tougher for it. It's getting much harder for Nvidia to really break out. And there are some signals that show signs of exhaustion for the stock. If we break 133.7, look for 134.5 as the next resistance. If we end up losing 132.6, I'll be looking at 131.5, then 130. In my personal opinion, I think there's a good chance that Nvidia is going to kind of shuffle here. But like I said earlier, it's kind of showing signs of exhaustion. It's been pushing so much for so long, and resistance is getting kind of tougher. So I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually come back down lower, back down to the lower 130s, all the way down to like 130 flat. So we could go a little higher, but like I said earlier, there is a risk of Nvidia dip because we're showing some weakness. Another stock we were expecting to dip is Tesla. We came down to this support over here close to our hourly 50 EMA at 183. If we bounce off this, I'll be looking at 185 as resistance, close to 20 EMA. If we lose this, I'll be looking for a dip all the way down towards the low 180 area. That's where the previous resistance becoming support would happen to be. So Tesla is showing some weakness right now. There is a risk of it dipping lower, but don't forget, guys, despite this weakness, when you look at the 4-hour time frame and we zoom out and kind of remove every single one of these lines, you will see that Tesla still has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. When you zoom out like this, it's still bullish overall. The trend is still bullish on Tesla. There's a very, very bullish looking pattern. So it does have potential to break out as we get closer to July. And there's going to likely be more upside coming. As long as we're above 167, we're going to be fine. But for the short term, okay, there might be a little downside coming despite more medium to longer term upside. All right. So I want to make that very, very clear. Tesla is still bullish overall, but for the short term, there is still some weakness. For the QQQ, I just wanted to call out on the 1 hour time frame. We're actually approaching some critical supports. We have 484 as a key level. That's actually very close to where our 20 EMA happens to be. I mean, resistance around 485 and 486. So there is going to be a risk of us kind of popping, maybe even dipping a bit towards our 20 EMA. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 482.5. So I'm seeing some signs of a double top like structure on the QQQ and maybe a rejection. There are some signals that show that. But we don't have confirmation of a break of our key support yet to really start breaking down. So yes, this is showing some signs of a potential rejection, but there's no official break of key support yet for it to really start dipping. So we're still waiting to see if the Q loses the support at 484. If we lose that, this thing is going to fall even harder. So we'll have to wait and see. As of right now, support is holding up. So I'll be watching that very carefully. For a few more, we also have Bitcoin coming out. Bitcoin is currently at this 64,500 area. That's going to be our key support. The resistance all the way up here around the 65,000 area, not to mention 65,400. We also have support currently at 64,000 flat. So I'll be watching to see if we get a bounce or not, at least on Bitcoin. We're kind of shuffling a bit. But even though we're kind of like trying to base at 64,000, when you zoom out, the trend is bearish. Bitcoin is making lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. It's still falling and looking a little bit weaker. So I see a risk of it dipping even lower. So far, Bitcoin is showing weakness. It's on the downtrend. We'll have to watch to see if support ends up holding later on as we approach 64,000. But it is looking weak. For Aapl, Apple's in the red right now. But this is the range we're in. It's actually very simple. If you look at the 1 hour time frame, notice that Aapl has resistance at 216. That's going to be our 20 EMA. And if we lose support, we have the 50 EMA, 214.28. If we lose this, we'll be dipping even lower. So I'm seeing some signs of weakness, at least on Aapl. And there is a risk of it dipping lower if we lose 214. So I'll be watching that carefully. For Supermicro, we're actually showing some strength, trying to break out for right now. But just be careful because the last time we hit this 940 area, we did see rejection. We did come very close to that today. It's because of bullish news that came out. We're at resistance currently at this 920 area. If we reject, so look at 900 as key support, followed by the 880s. If we break resistance, we'll be breaking out higher, but we'll be watching this carefully. There's a risk of this kind of dipping a bit. So I'll be watching that very carefully. For Coinbase, in my personal opinion, has resistance around this 240 area, and we have support all the way down here at 236. So I'm seeing some weakness on the chart right here. We actually have kind of like a head and shoulders like structure and a double top. So I'm seeing a little bit of weakness on the charts. There is a risk of it dipping lower towards 232. Unless we reclaim 240, this chart is actually favoring bears a bit more. So I'll be watching to see us eventually dip down to the lower 230s. Amazon needs to try to get back above 184 to be bullish. If we fail to do so, there's going to be a risk of us dipping back down. We have 182.5 as support. If we lose that, we'll be dipping all the way down towards 181. So I'm seeing a risk of downside. I think there's a good chance this will dip lower, so watch for that. Amazon also has kind of like a head and shoulder, so I'm seeing a weakness, so there's a risk of this dipping lower. For Meta, this is showing some weakness. I mean, we ended up failing to break past 510. It was attempting to break and we ended up failing. So now we have 500 as key support. If we lose this, I'll be looking for 495. Technicals have shifted in the opposite direction. We also got some negative news. So I'll be watching that as key supports. AMC and GameStop are just shuffling. GameStop did end up dipping down below 25 only to get bought back up. So it's kind of shuffling around the 25 zone, but not really doing much. And then AMC is doing the same thing, kind of shuffling as well. We have this resistance to watch for around this 4.9 area, but I think that we're just going to likely remain range bound. All right, so that's it for the video, guys. This is your quick market update. We're seeing some weakness in the markets, but we have to watch for confirmation to see if we're going to continue to dip lower. So watch for this very carefully. We have a double top kind of developing on SPY, and we'll see how things go. And I am seeing some weakness, at least right now. There is some weakness developing. We just haven't lost critical support yet. So we'll give the market some time and see how things go. Always be open-minded, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in a few hours. And peace out.